I'll welcome to the stage, please, our next panel. It's Laurence Brown, Head of Insights at Stonegate, Louise Fleming, Head of Guest and Retail Insights at Punch Pubs, and Kiran Quinn, Group Marketing Director at Red Cat Hospitality. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Katie's just done a brief introduction, but perhaps you could just introduce yourselves and just elaborate a little bit more on your business. Louise, as you've got a microphone, I'll start with you.
Okay, yes, hi, I'm Louise Fleming. I work at Punch Pubs. I'm Head of Guest and Retail Insight. I've only been with Punch for just under a year, but I've spent most of my career in the world of hospitality and brewing in the world of marketing and insight. So.
Hello, Laurence, Head of Insights at Stonegate. So we're on 4,500 pubs across leased and tenanted, operator managed and managed. I previously worked at CAM for 2 years, so great to be back. And also previously before that at Dunnhumby, so grocery in the world of insights and club card.
Thank you. I'm Kiran Quinn. I am the Group Marketing Director at Red Cat Hospitality, working across Red Cat Independent Pubs and the Coaching In Group, founded by Kevin Charity, two great businesses. Alongside this, I trained for 7 years as a psychotherapist. A bit unusual in this context. However, it's given me one of the most useful lenses in hospitality. So always been interested in customer behaviour, but seeing more and more different trends that Katie's spoken about, which I'll share with you. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so we've seen a quick intro from Katie on some of the key customer trends that we're seeing at the moment that we need to be aware of. What do you think, and what is the data that you're getting in your business showing you that's changed most fundamentally with the customer behaviour in your pubs? And what do you think of that is here to stay? Kiran, I'll start with you as you've got the microphone.
Yeah, that's fine. I think the biggest thing for me isn't really about what customers are buying. It's about actually how are they arriving. And Katie touched on it beautifully about connection. People are tired. I don't know where all the happy customers are, because in our business, it's about customers that are actually stressed. Life is really difficult for people, especially in uncertain times. And they are coming less frequently, but when they are coming, the emotional stakes are high. So it's about giving great service. It is about that experience being good enough for them. Is it worth it when they're spending 60, 70, 80 or 100 quid sometimes? But like Katie said, it's not really about alcohol anymore. It's about connection. And some of the businesses, especially certainly in my experience, the ones that are winning are giving people reasons to connect, whether that's quiz nights, whether that's local tribute nights. It's events that bring people together. And I think the pub is certainly that place where people are connecting. It's giving people regulation, emotional regulation again. And I think that's a great space to be in.
Laurence.
Sorry. Yeah, we agreed to not be too doom and gloom on here, based on some of the stuff we've heard today. But one thing that hit me that I saw recently was that only 13% of people expect their finances to improve this year. And we've got more people this year only going to the off-trade rather than sort of doing a combination or coming to the on-trade. And one thing I'm seeing consistently is that people's reason to visit is more polarizing now than it's ever been before, and it actually came up in the CAM Informants event a couple of weeks ago. So you've got people either looking for that value, price-led, or you're looking for a great experience. And that sort of middle ground where it's just kind of, oh, I'm just going to go to the pub and chat, that there's less of that now because people are obviously watching what they're spending. And I think too often we think about experience as being, oh, it's got to be a brilliant experience, so you're going to Instagram, but actually we're seeing sport, for example, just doing sport really, really well. I saw a stat the other day that 95% of people aren't able to watch their team in a stadium, so what's the next best place to do that? It's in the pub with atmosphere, or is it a great student pub and having a great experience with that? And we're seeing that our sites that do that well and sort of really anchor themselves to that are doing great. So, yeah.
Thank you. Louise.
Yeah, I would say that just kind of building on the slides that we just saw, probably one of the biggest changes that we're seeing is that change in day part and shifting to going out earlier and finishing earlier. However, I probably wouldn't agree that people are going out less. you know, what we're seeing in our pubs is actually people still continuing to come for the right reasons. And the right reasons are when there is that real reason to visit and when there is kind of a real experience that they can have that they can't get at home. And the pubs that are doing this really, really well are those that are really kind of in the heart of their communities. And so they will bring people in, give them a reason to visit and give them a reason to stay. And so, yes, people are coming out earlier, but actually one of the things that we need to be able to do is to help them stay longer and give them reasons to visit and reasons to keep coming back to that kind of community hub.
Thank you. We know that pubs have not traditionally been sort of data-driven industry. It's been much more recent that started to become more prevalent. And Laurence, that probably leads me on to what you're doing at Stonegate with Mixer. So perhaps could you just tell us a bit more about how Mixer is helping Stonegate sort of understand the data and help their licensees understand the data?
Yeah, so I'll just caveat Mixer's just in our managed pubs for now. We have it's a loyalty app, think Club Card, but for pubs. We've got around 300,000 active users on it. We do have a challenge converting those who sign up to active, and we really see the impact it has in kind of 3 areas. So you've got the guest loyalty piece. We see that they're spending more, so that's fantastic, and also can take a lot of the pressure off kind of what we're doing in site if we can do that centrally by surprising and delighting or personalized offers. You've got the supplier side as well, so obviously helping suppliers understand how guests are interacting with what with their products and what they're switching from, who are their best customers. But the third one, which I guess is really where I see the impact in helping GMs, licensees, is sort of going beyond just sales, number of drinks, volume, but actually breaking that performance down into guest metrics. So into how many guests have I got and new guests, how often are they visiting, how long do they stay there, what do they spend when they visit? Because you might have a site that's doing phenomenally well, but actually you can see that their spend per visit is dropping, and breaking that down allows us to be much more targeted in the support. So we then link that to a playbook which goes, okay, you have a challenge with dwell time, and you also have a challenge around that post 7 p.m, which we know lots of pubs do, but you've actually got quite a lot of sports fans there. So how are we leveraging the Champions League midweek, for example, and really supporting them with that? So it just allows our support to be a lot more targeted. So we also look at game time sales, we look into more product and category-based performance, all versus how they were doing last year, all versus how they're doing benchmarked against other pubs that are similar. So it really tries to simplify it, because I saw the 7th one up there was sort of market and consumer insight. But the challenge with that is always, how do you make it right for that audience? How do you make it easy to understand? So we're really leaning on the area managers and regional managers to be the champions of that, so they can take it to their meetings with them and talk the GM or the licensee through it. So yeah, it's been really effective so far, but still very early in the journey on that.
Thank you. And Louise, how about for you? How big a focus is customer data at Punch, and how do you help your licensees to understand that data?
Yeah, it's a really big focus for us. It's a really, really important part of what we do and what we do as a team as well. But data is nothing without kind of the insight that comes with it. And it's about how we can kind of convert that into meaningful insight that can help a publican or an MP to grow their business. And one of the ways that we do that is through HDI platform, which is really well embedded within all of our teams. And it enables us to look at a hyperlocal level. Obviously, we use data at a macro level to track all of the trends and to track all of that as well. But what going through HDI enables us to do is to understand at a really hyperlocal level what's going on within a pub's competitor set, where their guests are spending elsewhere, where our pubs are winning, and where there are opportunities to gain new guests for occasions where they might be winning or losing. So it really helps us get that hyperlocal eye and really to use that data to really, really good effect. And the other thing that we are then able to do is overlay our own guest segmentation. So we've done a big piece of work a few years ago now to understand kind of different types of guests and what they do and where they go. And we have so much information about these guest types. And by understanding which guests are coming for which occasions, it then helps us kind of understand, okay, we want to be able to target more of those. We know that these people are, coming for a special occasion and are likely to spend more on premium food, or they want to come to watch the sport on a Saturday, or whatever it is, and enable our publicans and MPs to get kind of hyperlocal with their kind of activities as to how they can grow their sales by looking at that data.
Thank you. Kiran, same question for you.
Yeah, I love the HDI data. I think Mark Bentley's in here, but I won't go too much about that. But, it really certainly helps us on a local level understand where we are winning market share and where we're losing it to our competitors. The other thing that I would say is we've invested in our websites. So for us, for the coaching in group, that's, predominantly, that's still a big area for us, driving our accommodation bookings. But we can clearly see that during the customer journey, where we can make it a lot clearer, where we can actually have more call to action, where people are anxious about making certain decisions or where they're confident about making decisions, especially online. I think it's really important. And also, I think for licensees, the simple thing of doing a focus group, don't underestimate when you're spending money in your businesses, investing in your pubs, then getting a group of customers together to really understand what they like or dislike and how you can change. And I think that's super important.
Thank you. I'm just going to touch on something which wasn't on the question, sorry, because I promised I wouldn't do this. But Laurence, you mentioned about suppliers looking at your data as well, so to help them understand. But actually flipping that round, what can suppliers do to help you with data?
Yeah,
we've got a few of them in the room. So
no, it's absolutely huge, and it's something where they do have larger teams and research teams. It's not something that's inherently been involved in pubs having these big teams, and so you touched on the focus groups there. If they're doing things like that for other their customers, those learnings ultimately there's that mutual benefit. I'd also say, touching on the occasions piece, which is absolutely vital, is putting data behind that. So why are they visiting? All suppliers will have these occasions, they'll have this strategy, and if you can try and align with that or take learnings from that, I think the challenge I've found has been getting to the right people. So obviously the largest suppliers will have on-trade category teams, but they might not have that. So, or even if it's just getting to a category team or global insights team and getting time with them, because they'll be able to help you leverage your insight and the kind of a two-way street within their business. It's quite difficult to do when you're just chatting to national account managers, because they're much more focused on distribution, sales, those kind of things. So yeah, kind of getting those stakeholder supplier side is absolutely vital. Thank you.
We've heard a bit from Katie just now about some of the customer trends that are coming, and one of the ones I want to touch on is drink choices evolving. We're very well aware of the rise of low and no, as we know from our own CAM research with Lucky Saints, and things like moderation. It's not all about not drinking, it's moderation, it's zebra striping, it's the premiumisation, it's the experiential piece as well. What are the biggest shifts you're seeing in your data around how customers are drinking, and how are you helping your licensees adapt to those trends? Louise, I'll start with you.
Yep. Yeah, sure. I mean, the trend of premiumisation is one which has been kind of going on for many, many years, and it continues. And it's really important, and it's growing through kind of world lager growth, through the growth of cocktails and increasing spend through that, with that kind of experiential element as well. It's linked to the fact that, guests are looking for something that they can't get at home. However, what we're also seeing is kind of on the polar opposite almost of premiumisation. We've got a number of real value-led pubs and guests for whom value for money is increasingly important, squeezed disposable incomes, and so there's this kind of polarisation of trends that are happening within our pubs. So yes, absolutely, the continuation of premiumisation and spending a little bit more when people go out, but also making sure that we've got the right ranges in to enable guests and to enable our pubs to have the right range in place, where it's not about spending more, it's actually about making sure that we've got kind of real value for money to keep guests coming back in those value-driven spaces as well. So yes, I suppose that's the premiumisation bit. And then in terms of moderation, moderation is clearly growing. Within Punch, it's grown by 116% over the last 2 years, but it's still small in terms of low and no, is still a small category within our overall sales. We know it's important. We're continuing to invest in that, and it's about kind of making sure that we're not just putting in low and no, but it's about we are providing a range of drinks and a range of soft drinks, a range of premium soft drinks as well, so that we are keeping on top of that. And we know how different guest types are responding to that trend as well. So younger generations are tending to choose more different drink options, low and no and alcohol-free. But older generations often will tend to have one drink less, and we want to make sure that we are kind of keeping on top of that and making sure that we are, providing all options really. Lower ABV and stuff.
Yes, Kiran.
So yeah, we're seeing the resurgence of Guinness has to be the biggest trend that we've seen. I think in our experience is when there are uncertain times, people actually gravitate towards familiar brands, it's just been really great to see how. Guinness has seen a huge rise, and I think people will see more and more of that. Moderation, certainly seeing it in our business, low and no. But I think for licensees and our teams, it's important. Sometimes we're always chasing the new brand, but actually you can still give people great experiences with those familiar brands, and I think that's really important.
Laurence.
Yeah, I guess just touching on spirits, we're seeing a quite really challenging time for spirits, and I think it's a bit chicken and egg because obviously later night is probably when you would tend to move to spirits, but seeing a lot of that switch to beer and cider. I think there's a couple of reasons. I think due to the cost of living pressures, you don't know the price of what you're going to pay for it is a simple one, so that's a challenge of potentially getting around that, and menus. I think also, interesting, I don't know this, but I think there's a perception around moderation as well. People thinking spirits, higher ABV. We actually, on our screens in some of our sites, we just ran a campaign with Diageo where they were calling out the fact if you have a spirit mixer, that is actually less units than you would have of a pint. So I think that's an interesting one there in the perception. But I also just think there was something up there around the having less drinks when you go out. If you think you are able to not nurse, but drink a pint slower than you would in the spirit mixer. We're seeing spritz do really well, which if you think leans into that, a cheaper alternative, lasts longer. So I think because of those trends that we've seen, we're seeing beer, cider, spirits grow. But really interesting to see what happens with spirits because it is declining.
Thank you. Let's move from drink onto food on that. Obviously plays a very different role depending on the type of pub, and you'll all have wet-led pubs in your estate as well. But just thinking about sort of key food and menu trends that your business is seeing, what are you seeing and what are you predicting and reacting to? Kiran?
So with food trends, I mean, there's lots around vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, but I think in our business, there's a reason why fish and chips, carvery are the #1 dishes, and that's because people want familiarity. Sometimes we can give them too much choice. So, people, again, goes back to the point of people want to have a visit which is good enough, it feels worth it. So, and when I was talking about people being stressed or tired, life is busy for them. So when they're coming into the pub, it's about good choices, smaller choices for them as well, and good quality and good price. There's nothing more different than that, and it's I mean, for our business as well, we're focusing on those key top 10 dishes. And Sunday roast, I have to say, we always try and make that one experience. It's one of our busiest times, but it's when people do connect. It's when people do come together. It's that one time in the week when we are still seeing families and friends being in a large group because life is so busy for them.
Louise?
Obviously we are keeping a really close eye on health and moderation, and making sure that we are developing menus within our MP estate that are catering for healthier, for smaller portions, all of those kinds of things. We've seen a rise in bar snacks as well, which could potentially be linked to smaller appetites. We don't know. what we also see is similar to this kind of comfort is that when most guests are coming into our pubs, they're still looking for a special occasion and something where they can have a treat. And so that kind of indulgent occasion is still really, really important in pubs, whether that is, you know, if it's a real special occasion and a more premium meal, or whether it is kind of a, you know, a weekday lunch for, you know, a retired couple who eat out twice a week or whatever. The top tens remain the top tens. And yes, it's important to make sure that we are building menus that are accommodating some of these broader trends. But actually, it is the kind of the treat, the everyday treat, which is what guests are coming in for again and again and keeps them coming back.
We've touched a bit on frequency, and we know that frequency or dwell time is becoming sort of slightly less. But what shifts are you seeing in your data in terms of occasions and day parts? You know, are you seeing that people are coming out earlier? I remember seeing some data from, I think it was from Zonal and CGA, that the average booking time now is 6:12 p.m., which is much, much earlier than ever historically it used to be. So what are you seeing in terms of the shift, particularly in day part and occasion?
We're certainly seeing it in our business, in the coaching in group. Breakfast, brunch is now one of our biggest occasions. People are coming out earlier. The dining time for our bookings on Collins, one of the biggest times is 6 o'clock now. You know, some of our pubs are quieter at 8 o'clock. And that's where some of those events kick in. But yeah, we're certainly seeing it in our business. People aren't eating breakfast, lunch and dinner. It's some people aren't eating at all, but they are definitely eating earlier or fasting. So that gives them a shorter window, but an earlier window.
Louise, what about for you?
Yeah, I would echo the starting earlier, finishing earlier, absolutely. And I think one of the things that's really important to do is to make sure that pubs are giving guests a reason to visit and a reason to stay. And one of the things that we're really proud of in Punch is the Grand Ideas scheme that we have, which it kind of builds on this, giving guests a reason to visit and a reason to keep coming back. And it's about kind of sharing ideas and rewarding and recognising pubs when they go the extra mile to create a really, really memorable event in pub for guests. And we have a prize every week, and a pub wins. The winner this week was a pub that had won because they ran an event which was mechanical pig racing. I don't know what mechanical pig racing is, but they won, and they won £1,000 for their pub because not only did it tie up with a charity that was close to that pub, it brought guests in, it gave them a 50% uplift in their sales for the day, it brought people out on a cold, wet, early February day, and you know, really continuing to try and drive the pub within the community and getting people to come in earlier but extend their dwell time a little bit longer is how I think we can kind of help pubs and you know, share those great stories about how we can make the most of those changing trends, I suppose.
Thank you. Laurence, how about for you?
Yeah, I think one thing I saw recently from CJ actually was quite interesting is that the breadth of occasions has increased. So people are doing more occasions but less frequently, which obviously is a challenge. But I think it's obviously you've got that value, that polarizing element I mentioned earlier, the value element, fine, but that experience, I think it's, trying to do something innovative and different. There was a brilliant example at the Informants event a couple of weeks ago where that 90s cereal brunch, for example, so they played Cartoon Network and had a 90s cereal, so they're pulling on that nostalgic thing. So it's kind of really trying to be known for something, not trying to do, yes, there is a breadth of occasions, but we can't do every single occasion. So just trying to be known for something. And then also one thing I'm quite interested by is bars and clubs and the late night is obviously declining quite quickly. How do pubs capitalise on that? If people are less likely now to go from one to use the pub and then go on somewhere, how actually do we sort of change that atmosphere and adapt that to capture that late night spend? I think that's a really interesting trend that we'll see increase.
Thank you. We're nearly out of time. I think I've got one Slido question time, so there's a few here, but I'm going to pick one. What data do you wish you had but you currently don't have? And how would that help you plan, or help your licensees plan better for marketing and events and so on?
I would selfishly love to have a mixer and all the guest data across all our pubs. That would be...
But that's interesting, because another question was, are you likely to roll it out into craft union, managed pubs, managed partnerships?
That hasn't come from Tim, is it?
I don't know. It hasn't got a name against it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's on the table. There's some complications with it, with how you can earn your points in slug, and do you go and spend them there? But absolutely, there's a slug and lettuce. Sorry, that is not slug. So yeah, absolutely, that's on the cards. But I think it's what we've been able to do with that loyalty data and really understanding the guest behaviour beyond sales allows you to be so much more targeted with your support. So I think just scaling that out across the sector, to be honest, it's been going on in grocery for a long time, and ultimately it allows us to improve that experience. It allows small Tesco Express stores to have the right products in the right store because they know those people in that locality. There's absolutely no reason we can't do that. And it also, as I said, that personalisation element takes a lot of the pressure off. Oh, is it the usual, that kind of conversation? If you can have that and surprise and delight them and say, oh, there's a Heineken that's dropped into your a new Cruz Campo Sevilla's dropped into your app wallet, go down the pub. I mean, that takes a huge pressure off us trying to do marketing on A-boards or social media. So, I'd love to have that at scale.
Louise, anything for you?
That kind of data would be amazing from an insight perspective. Yeah, I know. However, I think, gosh, I don't know, because one of the things that guests love about kind of pubs that don't look and feel like anywhere else is that they don't look and feel like anything else, and that it is personal. They have a relationship with that pub and the pub role in the community. And so, whilst I would love to have that, I think it's more about kind of how we can kind of grow those links invisibly. And that isn't necessarily going to be through data. It's going to be through kind of those connections and through that community. So I have to take my data hat off, I think, for that and
That's
say,
fine.
I think it's about building connections.
Thank you. Kiran?
I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking, what would I love? I think to what you said. I mean, we've got a database of 500,000 people, but if we could look, more people on your database, driving that data is going to be more and more powerful. So you can actually understand, more and more about what's driving that frequency, how you can give them a better experience.
Thank you. I think we're out of time because I'm getting a signal. So if anyone wants to find out about mechanical pig racing, then please come and see Louise afterwards. I'm very, very intrigued about that one. But please join me in thanking the panel. Thank you. Thanks, guys.